Now what will it be? Death or exile?
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the TV Exiles. This week we'll be looking at episode 3 of the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars, titled On the Wings of Kiridax. As usual, joining me for this review is fellow Star Wars enthusiast Brandon.
Happy to be back.
Good stuff. Right, so let's get into it. So let's start with your overall thoughts, Brandon. What did you think of the episode at large?
Thought it was another great episode. Very action-packed the whole time. Not really any filler to be found. And even some of what happened in this episode ended up kind of justifying the filler in the last episode. So overall, I'd say another strong episode to kind of start bringing this to a close.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, it is a solid episode. No filler, action-packed, fast-paced, and tying the arc together beautifully. When we say that it ties the arc in, those who listened to our previous episode will have noticed that I was a bit critical of how they started the episode out. What was the point of them meeting this new tribe and this flying monsters and whatever? But actually in this episode, it really brings it back. It now makes sense why we got that initial sequence on the planet. And it's really good foresight and really good writing. And bringing those into it, it really expands on this theme of neutrality. Time and time again in Star Wars, we get these neutral systems being dragged into war. And it is a point that's purposely made, like throughout the 7 seasons, most notably with Mandalore, but we also see it with so many systems, like for example with Maridon, which we visit in season 1. The episodes are called Jedi Crash and Defenders of the Peace, but there's always seems to be some kind of acceptance that in the end nobody can stay neutral. And we saw it in those original episodes with the Lurmen, who are pacifist tribes succumbing and entering into battle. We see it again here in this episode with the politics, where in the previous episode they told the team that they did not want their war on their planet, and now suddenly, after seeing what they did to Echo, they're all in. And it's kind of interesting because you kind of question what is the value of neutrality in war. I mean, there's this kind of idea, and it comes from a quote from Edmund Burke, that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. It's an interesting theme, but I do wonder if this episode and the series overall overlooks some of the merits of having a Switzerland-like stance, let's say. I think there's something to be said about that, and that comes right from the opening crawl, right?
Yeah, well, so there's 2 different opening crawl quotes. The original Legacy episode was, "In war, there is no such thing as neutrality." And for the new one, they switched it to "Survival is one step on the path to living." And I definitely felt the other one was more apparable to what is actually happening in not only this episode, but a lot of the series, is that at some point you can't stay neutral. There's a nobility in it, but eventually it shows up on your doorstep and you have to make the decision on which side. And, when you see true evil, when you see what happened to Echo, or when they see what happened to Echo,
Mm-hmm.
that's a line that's too far for them. And you're forced to pick right away. But yeah, like you said, there's definitely arguments to be made for neutrality, but in the end, can you ever stay truly neutral anymore?
That's the message that Clone Wars tries to push on us. But you mentioned the difference between the legacy and the new episodes. There's actually some more differences. There's a scene in the legacy episode between Anakin and Wat Tambor before he uses the organic decimator. I think it's a really good scene that unfortunately we didn't get. There's a bit of dialogue there, and I can understand why they cut it, because it is a bit slow-paced, and you have to give up, no, we'll never give up, and and that kind of thing. But the use of the organic decimator on one of the tribesmen is really good, and now you kind of understand why the clones were so desperate to get out of that room before the organic decimator got in, because it just vaporizes the tribesmen. That's why they were so eager to get out of there.
Another difference, there was actually a little bit more explanation from Tech on what was going on between the computer and Echo.
Mm-hmm.
In the final episode, it's just, they're intertwined, and he's got to hack and release them from the system. But in the original, it goes into a little bit more detail on how the computer was controlling his respiratory system, his pulmonary functions, basically how it was keeping him alive. Was it entirely necessary? I don't know, but it was still interesting that they went into that much detail originally.
Yeah.
And I think they just kind of felt like, well, the machine looks like it could keep him alive, so that's good enough.
Yeah. And then obviously they get out of the room, and then they cross the crossing, and they're saved by these flying creatures, the Karadeks. And yeah, then they convince the tribe to involve themselves in the war, and they defeat Wat Tambor's crew. Do you have any closing remarks on the episode and how you see it going forward?
I mean, again, this was very action packed. It fit right in. It helped bring the story, pretty much full circle. Even things that we thought were negatives last time were improved, which is, what a good episode arc should do, is it should tell a story, and, improve on what came before. And I think that it did it. Like we've said in previous episodes, this still feels like it was something maybe mid-season originally. And I think the hardest part about these episodes is wanting to get to the real meat of the season with the Siege of Mandalore and anything with Ahsoka. So I'm as much as I'm enjoying this arc, I'm ready to hit the good stuff.
Good stuff. So yeah, similar. I'm intrigued by Echo's last kind of wandering look before the screen fades to black. I think there's something there that we might see in the next episodes. But other than that, brilliant episode. Can't wait to get more of them. Brandon, why don't you tell the good people where they can find you?
As always, I'm on Twitter at @the_meatball_84. I'm ready to always talk some Clone Wars, movies, TV in general. So show on up. I'll be there.
Great stuff. And I've been Chris, and you can find me at Vinaldo7. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay exiled.